the sound recording, like I said, completely separate copyright, completely separate revenue streams. Sometimes the sound recording and composition are owned by the same person. If I write and record a song, I'm going to own the composition's copyright and the sound recording copyright. But a lot of times it'll involve other producers. Sorry, other creators, other outside parties. So it may involve a producer. I may hire other musicians to record with me. Maybe I have a featured vocalist on the track. And remember at the beginning, I said whoever contributes to the creation of a copyright is a co-owner. So if I have written the song entirely by myself, but I only play guitar and keys, I'm not a good drummer, I can't play horn, right? Well, I'm gonna hire a drummer to come in the studio. I'm gonna hire a horn section to come to the studio. Maybe I hire some backup vocalists to come in the studio. Everybody on that recording is a co-owner of my sound recording. Okay, so this is really important to think about. Now, there are ways to avoid this, and we will talk about that later. But I just want to make sure to mention it now as we're thinking about, okay, we talked about copyright, we talked about ownership, set of exclusive rights, revenue streams. Now we're talking about the sound recording. Think about who's involved in the sound recording. And I will talk about contracting about that later. But we definitely want to make sure we're thinking about who we're involving. And now we can talk about the revenue streams from those sound recordings. So the performance of the sound recording, this only covers performance by digital audio transmission. All the way at the beginning, I said, here are the exclusive rights to reproduce, to distribute, to perform, to create derivatives. And the very last one on the list was performed by digital audio transmission. This is one of the most confusing things in sound copyright and music copyright, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But basically what it means is when a composition is performed, there is a performance royalty that comes from every use, whether it's live, whether it's over the radio, whether it is over the loudspeakers in a bar, all those different ways. When it's performance of a sound recording, the only time revenue is due, the only time there's a royalty is when it is by digital audio transmission, basically over the internet, okay? So when I turn on the radio in my car and I hear music playing, that is a public performance of the composition. It is not a public performance of the sound recording. When I turn on my computer and play that radio station over the computer, over the internet, that is a performance of the sound recording and a performance of the composition. It is a digital audio transmission of the sound recording. It generates a royalty. Now, honestly, whether you know or understand that isn't important. What I do want you to know and understand is there is one performing rights organization for sound recordings, SoundExchange. So where we have ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and GMR for the composition side, SoundExchange for the sound recording. So when you make sound recordings, register the sound recordings with SoundExchange, they will collect the public performance royalties for the public performance by digital audio transmission of your sound recording. Every time your recording is played on Spotify, it generates a royalty, SoundExchange collects it and pays it to you when you register. So it is a lot easier. There's no choices. It should be a pretty simple sign-up process. And when they do pay, when you do register, they will also ask about producers, mixers, engineers. So it's a bit more of a complicated registration process, and it matters who's in the room, who owns that sound recording with you, whether you own it all yourself or whether you've got other people in the room that own that sound recording. But all the performance royalties from a sound recording go through SoundExchange. So that should be simple. I hope, anyway. The other revenue stream for sound recordings is through distribution. So this is what we usually think about when we think about making money from our music. Okay, distribution is selling CDs, selling vinyls, getting your checks or your money from Spotify or from Apple or from TuneCore, however you get your digital revenue. That is all for the reproduction and distribution of your sound recordings. So depending on how you distribute your music, that money will come in different ways, right? If you are selling vinyl at your show, well, you're making money from selling that vinyl. If you have however you've gotten your music onto the streaming services, those streaming services that are paying you, usually through a TuneCore or a CD Baby or DistroKid, that is money for the distribution of your music. Distribution used to be hard because you had to find a way to get your music out there, usually through a record deal, which were not easy to come by. Now, distribution is super easy because we can distribute through these companies that I was mentioning, TuneCore, DistroKid, CD Baby. These are companies where you go to them and you say, here's my music, put it up on all those streaming services. And they say, we will take your music, we'll put it up on all those streaming services, we will collect the money from the streaming services, we'll take our cut, and then we'll give you your money. So I cannot personally recommend one over the other. Different people, again, have different experiences with these different distribution platforms. But self-distribution has gotten a lot easier than it used to be.